Hi, welcome back. My name is Gabrielle, and I am sharing today the importance of finding your neutral place and becoming neutral in yourself so that your higher self can come through and express exactly what your beliefs are and what your purpose here is in this incarnation. This week, I want to talk to you guys about becoming neutral. This topic came to me this week as I was watching the initiation on Gaia.com by Matias to Stefano. I'm going to share the episode that I'm going to be referencing below so that you guys can all be in the know on what he says. But it's called The Architects of Reality. And as with everything, when something that I experience or I watch triggers something in me, I know that that's what I'm supposed to talk about. So this week, that's what happened. And I knew, okay, that's going to be the subject this week. And it's weird because the more that the week went on, the deeper I got into why that was the case. And what does it even mean to become neutral, right? And essentially, you can look at any topic in the world. It could be politics, it could be like really anything. And you can see that there's a light side and there's a dark side. And what we have learned as people through like just parenting and society is that we fall on one or the other. We identify as this or that, and it's due to not necessarily our beliefs and not necessarily our parents' beliefs. It's conditioned beliefs that are passed down, that are ancestral trends, that if you really were to ask your parent, let's say politics, why they have the beliefs that they have, it would be most likely because that's how I was raised, right? And so then when you really get into where do your beliefs that you stand for come from, it's probably people that are long gone. And that becomes a problem when we're trying to evolve as a humanity. When you believe in something so deeply and you trench yourself in this belief, it means that you're not open to the way times have evolved and being open enough to understand where the other side is coming from so that you can try to find a neutral place, right? Or a place that works for everyone versus just this is me and my beliefs and you are there and I am here and we clash. We do not see eye to eye on anything. And that episode, why it triggered in me this conversation is because he talks about we need both light and dark, because if you believe that you are light or on the pure place of expression, the only way that you're able to see that lightness in yourself is by having the darkness there to illuminate who you are. And I think he explains it very well, so that's why I'm sharing that this is something that you guys should definitely listen to. But if let's say everybody was believing in the exact same thing, then you wouldn't know your good qualities, and you wouldn't know that, for example, you have a pure heart, because everybody would be light, right? Like there would be no nuances of gray to see the nuances of you and to see like, oh, this is why I am special. This is my gift. This is what I am here to bring, and this is what I know makes me different or makes me separate from others, or what I came to help bring to others. If there wasn't dark, then how would we see that, right? Everyone would just be the same. And so he talks about how the need for light and dark was created in the sixth dimension for that we can know ourselves in every aspect of life. And hearing that from him just triggered these things in me that were like, if we are conditioned to believe in certain things, and it doesn't matter if they're good, they're bad, they're always going to be good in your eyes, right? But like I said, those conditions come from most likely your parents and then maybe your friends. But then when you really get into where do they actually come from, they're so long ingrained in us that they probably don't come from anyone that's even around, right? So then if you're carrying around these beliefs that are so deeply entrenched in you, right? And so deep that if anyone says anything to you that are against that belief, you get triggered, and then it makes you shut down, and it makes you defensive, and it makes you not want to even hear what the other person has to say. Well, the issue is that then you are carrying on beliefs that have been generational that maybe don't apply anymore in this new place of reality, right? And for me, what I'm realizing is that it's the neutrality place, the place of becoming neutral, is where you open yourself up to universal truth. And I know this is like, I mean, it's a big concept, but the thing is to be a channel, you have to be able to not have your biases on what the universal truths are, right? So I realized this week, yesterday, I'm preparing to make a website, and I had to go in and put in all of the past like 10 episodes of the podcast that I've done in that platform. And as I was like inputting them, I was writing out the descriptions of each of those last 10 podcasts. And it's so crazy, but I don't remember doing them. And I mean, in the sense of, not that I didn't identify with them when I was doing them, but it wasn't me writing them. It wasn't me speaking them. It was channeled information. And I know that because now when I look at it, I'm going back now like 10 weeks, I'm looking at it from fresh, like from like, oh, that makes sense. And then I was like, how is that possible that I'm looking at this as new information when I'm the one that said it? And then I realized it's because you were in this space of neutrality that allowed the message to come through. Oh my God, I just had deja vu too. So that is so crazy. Yeah, so this has happened before, this exact moment. And I realized that if I was putting out the message, because right, I tell you, this is what comes forward in my meditation, what I'm supposed to talk about. If I'm putting it forward and I step aside to become that neutral position, then truth comes through, not my bias on how I was raised or what my group of peers or society tells me is the right thing. I'm letting the universal energy message come through. So I'm not saying that to become neutral means you're going to be a channel, but it opens you up to stuff that isn't yours. I mean, that takes you out of the stuff that isn't yours, right? So like when you really think about, why do I believe, let's talk about politics. Like that is such a huge topic. And I was raised to believe more in the Democratic view, but I remember when I first started voting, I was declared independent because I didn't really know that much about politics, and I felt like, why would I box myself into one or the other? And then the older that I got, I remember wanting to vote in a primary, and the only way you can do that is to declare yourself as one or the other. So I declared myself as Democrat. And then my mom is very much into politics and very much of the democratic beliefs. And then I think I've talked about this before. I have other family members, like extended family members, that are very much Republicans. And over the last 5 years, our relationship with each other has disintegrated because there is no place to find a neutral zone when you're coming at it from such different perspectives. But both perspectives are correct, right? Like there isn't a wrong here. It literally is, for the perspective of, let's say, my aunt and uncle who lived in Minnesota in a small farming town their whole lives. They see the world completely different than my mother, who left the farm and lived in cities and, was educated and had a career and all of that stuff, her perspective is different, but it doesn't make either side wrong. And if I look at, I identify with my mom's views because they feel more in line with love. And if I go just like to that basic statement of why do I identify more as a Democrat, I feel like it's more inclusive. I feel it's based on love. But it's politics, so it's still corrupt. It's not like it's a universal love. It's just, of the two, which one do you lean more towards, right? But it's not truth either. It's like there are corruptions in both. And when you identify with blindly with a party, it's like you're backing up, you're giving the energy towards all of it. It doesn't matter if you can't pick and choose and say like, oh, but I like this part, but I don't like this part. But I'm going to identify this and I'm going to vote as this because society says I have to pick one or the other. That's from this place of believing that you have to be one or the other, right? And what I'm saying is finding the neutral place of what do you feel? What do you identify with? And what can you be open to hearing on the other side that you don't identify with, right? So when you are in that space of curiosity and learning, it's like you're a child again. And then those conditions aren't as strongly held on you. It's more of, I'm seeing this afresh from a new place. And it's only from that position that we can then become channels and evolve our society. Because black or white, it's not that, that's not reality. That's a divisive tool that's been created so that we can't create a unity, right? And I look at how do we break down these barriers and try to be accepting of all, right? So like in the case of like people, I have very strong reactions to certain people, but in that I always now look at myself and I say, why am I reacting that way? There's something in this conversation that's triggering me for a reason. And then it's back, kind of really goes back to my conditioning of what am I judging in that person? What is it that I feel is off about that person through my lens of being raised the way that I was raised? And again, I'm not right. It's just this is what's been ingrained in me. And I know now I don't want to be blindly following these judgments without knowing where they come from. And is it really what I believe? So when you get into this space of neutrality, you can become a channel for your own higher self to bring forth what it is that you actually believe, right? And I the more I identify with this, it's like we only can become a new world or evolve when we actually are thinking for ourselves and not saying, okay, I have two options and I have to pick one, so I'm going to pick this one. Because that's not how the universe is. Just like religion is, when I think of religion, it's like a box that you need to put yourself in so that they can tell you how to connect to spirit. And I have seen it illustrated in this, like it shows a fish in the, it shows an ocean and then a fish in a fishbowl in the ocean. And it says, this is like something like, this is what how religion is in terms of spirituality. And it's saying like, yes, you're still going to be a part of the ocean, but you're in this little glass bowl. It's like putting constraints around how vast you can be, right? Where I feel spirituality is saying you don't need the structure of religion to tell you how to communicate with source and with God. It literally is inside of you, which means that it's varied and nuanced for every single person, right? There is no formula. There is no rules. There is no lessons. There's no judgments, because literally we're all so different, and it's so beautiful because of that. And that is like it brings you into this place of allowing what actually is versus like trying to fit things into a box. And then if they don't fit in either box, well, then they're looked out as not right and not accepted and wrong. And my I mean, let's even talk about getting the COVID shot. I realized that I was coming from a place of fear, that I believed that there was something wrong with the vaccine. And it had been because months ago, I had heard a few podcasts or YouTube videos where they had talked about, why would you be putting these chemicals into your body if you're healthy? And I identified with that. I was like, yeah, I am healthy. Why would I do that? But then I was like, why am I identifying with what this other person is believing without really checking in with me? And like I said, at the end of the day, the only place I was able to make a decision from my own source, my own higher self, was finding that neutral ground and going in, not looking out for society to tell me what is the right thing. And the beautiful part of this neutral place is that it is literally going to be different for everyone. And there is no judgment. It's like you're accepting your higher self, which then is like you're opening a door to you, which then makes your higher soul kind of go more embodied into you, and trust that you're going to start following those messages and those insights and those intuitions to bring it forth, right? It can't speak to you if you're just blindly following what you were taught, essentially, is the message that I've gotten. And it was like reconfirmed yesterday when I was going back and inserting those podcast things into this website. And it was like, I am looking at this stuff, it felt like from a new lens, or like from a fresh lens, from a place of, oh, that makes sense. And I think all of these teachings are that way. Like, you evolve to a certain point, and then when, like, I told you guys I don't listen to what I say. I just put it out and I don't edit it, because I had this fear of being seen and hearing my voice and all of that. But I have decided, just because it's raw and real, I'm keeping it in this format. But even writing down the description brought me back into those particular times. And I felt like I was seeing them from a different perspective now that I am, let's say, 10 weeks ahead of that timeline of when I created them. And it felt like, even though I said the words and even though I wrote them down, it wasn't me. It's still a lesson for me. And I really appreciate that if you get to that neutral place, the lessons, and even if like you get the download and you're like, okay, yeah, I got it. It's always something that you need to get. It's always like this kind of reoccurring thing of, it's a lesson. It feels like a nugget of gold that now you can carry around with you and be like kind of revisiting and being like, oh, now I see it from a different perspective, and it makes even more sense. And the only way you can get to that place is by being in the neutral zone of, what is your higher soul trying to align you with? Now, it almost becomes impossible if you're ingesting news and social media and opinions that everybody's throwing at you all day long, because it's unconscious. You don't even realize that you're picking up someone else's energy belief, but it is. They're like little threads, and they come into you, and if you even consume it, you either repel it or you attract it, right? So let's say it's a topic about, I don't know, something, I don't watch the news, so let's say it's something in politics, and you're just passively watching the news, but that thread of energy is now in your system, and the next conversation you have and someone asks you a question, it's an energy thread that you're then filtering your response to something completely different. It has a tie to you now. And I know that it's crazy, but it's true. Every single thought is like, they look like energy threads that are all living there. They're all out there. And it's like, if you allow them and let them into you as a belief, okay, I'm taking that as truth. It's like it's a file that's stored into your system that then now you filter through every decision that you make, even if you don't consciously realize that it's going through that filter. It is. And that means that you're being conditioned. We all are, in every way. And I mean, literally, when you really look at every part of your day, it's all conditioned. And what I think and how I live my life is getting out into nature where there is no conditioning and really connecting with my own energy is the only way I go back into that neutral zone of, okay, what is real for me in this moment? And I start my day that way because then it's like you can see the conditioning coming at you throughout the day, right? And I am not perfect. So there are days that I just accept it and I'm like, yeah, okay. Or I want to lay on the couch and take in the conditioning. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's knowing that that's what you're doing and then like not identifying it with it. It's almost like turning the switch of saying like, okay, this is entertainment. This is not reality. Like none of it is reality because reality is different for every single person and it doesn't make the collective thing wrong. It literally is different for every person's how they grew up, how they were raised, how they experienced life. It's true for them. So even if you don't believe it to be truth, it is true for them. And therefore you can't dismiss it. If we want to be inclusive, it's including, it's embracing the differences. And it doesn't mean that I identify and I am them saying, oh, I'm going to be, let's say it's politics, more Republican so that I can identify with them. No, that's not true either. The truth is in the middle, right? It's in the middle where we can meet and accept and literally go from inside and feeling into whatever the subject is to be able to have a conversation with people that maybe don't agree with your complete opposite view, but you're coming at this saying, I want to learn and I want to evolve and I want to grow, and therefore I have to try to shed the past conditioning and decide from this moment in time what is true for me today. Now, I was telling Richard about this last night and he was like, I mean, it makes sense, but that is like so challenging to even think about doing. And yeah, because literally we are conditioned from the moment that we are born. But I think what I'm realizing is that the goal in connecting with who you really are is that you have to be a blank slate to receive who you really are. And how do you do that when you have like years and years and years of information and energy on top of you, so that you can't even break through the shell of that to see who you are, right? And the message, that I get is that it's even having the intention. So in the moment, having the intention to try to see something from a neutral place, that's enough. That is like, it's almost like it blocks the threads of like all the internal conditioning and says, wait a second, light bulb, I can think for myself. And I don't know what I'm going to identify with, but I'm now curious to figure out what that will be for me. And that is exactly where you become neutral and where you start receiving who you really are and your gifts and becoming a light in this world, and becoming authentic in this world. And I mean, like I said, I've said this along this whole journey. I was not there. Almost a year and a half ago, I wasn't there. But it's like every step of the way, I am allowing and allowing and allowing more and more in, because the more that I get closer to my truer self, it feels so true. And I don't feel oppressed anymore. I don't feel judged anymore. I don't feel like I have to live up to someone else's expectations of me, because who cares? Like, who cares? It's all down to how do you live with yourself, and how do you need to have all the things and the car and the house and all the things that we believe make us secure if you feel miserable? I feel now that I'm free. And freedom for me is I can go about my day and my life expressing what my soul wants to say. And literally that's what I'm doing. I literally every week am expressing something of a part of me that I allow my mind to get out of the way for it to come through, right? Because I could have judgments about every single thing I talk about. because it's all new to me too. And I mean, like last week in the walk-in situation, I mean, that could have totally thrown me for a loop. But instead of being judging about it, I felt like curious, and it felt like a curiosity like of a child. Like, why am I attracted to this? There must be something there, and maybe it's for the for Patty to get, you know, her information. But I didn't care. I wasn't like a judgment about it to begin with. And then yeah, it opened up something completely different. But now I look back and I wonder, was it my being neutral about the topic and open to whatever it was meant to teach me, the reason that it was shared with me that is what I am, right? Where if I went into it with fear and, oh, this is weird and this is strange and I can't wrap my head around this, why would they then say, yeah, that's what you are? Because then I would have this block about it, right? And I would feel miserable in myself about it. So that's just one example of embracing the unknown. There's so many things that are unknown. And as we move forward, even in this year and I feel like this decade, there are going to be so many things that are going to open up to us as a society. And we can be fearful about them because they're going to be totally against and different than what we've grown up with. But what I believe deep down is that it's only for our good, and it's going to grow us in so many more dimensional ways to make us full human beings living why we actually are here, not just being these automatons in the cycle of the matrix that you go to work, you get a paycheck, you come home, you have dinner, and you do it all again the next day. I think that we're meant to be very unique and almost like snowflakes. Like, we're supposed to be doing different things, each one of us. And the only way that we can become those snowflakes is to really start learning how to listen to yourself. And becoming neutral is that step, that place of, this conditioning was given to me in love. There's no doubt about it, but it still is conditioning. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are new to the YouTube channel and you don't know at all who I am, I have been spending the last year documenting my journey into spiritual awakening. And you can get those episodes at My Leap of Faith podcast on Apple and Spotify and anywhere else that you get podcasts. I will link it below. But essentially, this has just been my journey in awakening myself from completely being miserable and inauthentic in my expression of who I was into who I am today, which is a free-flowing person, someone that shares every single thing that happens. And I believe that those messages come from my higher self. And I have this like drive and passion to share them all with you.